Hey, what's up everybody? Frank Valkyria, welcome to the channel. Today we're gonna do a movie review, reaction. Well, it's a review, reaction. So, if you didn't watch Coming to America 2, well then don't watch this review because I'm gonna give away some infos, some spoilers, and so you are warned. So anyway, yesterday I watched Coming to America 2, and I have to say I was really hoping and looking forward to see this movie. Like hundreds of millions of people probably around the world love this movie. I'm Italian. I watched this movie the first time with in Italian language, of course, because it gets in Italy everything gets subbed. Voiceover. Sorry. So the whole thing you hear other actors, but then of course later when I became more fluent in English, when I understood a little bit the language better, I watched all those older movies in the original language, and I also discovered for the first time the real laughter of Eddie Murphy. So that was super awesome. And of course, at the movies, Eddie Murphy was great in the 80s. I loved so many of his movies. So I was really looking forward to see this one and see how they could have pulled that off, in terms of story, and try to perhaps create some of the magic of the first one. So, okay, keep in mind that, because we love this movie, now there's also bias against the new one. So it's also understandable. There's also nostalgia. And talking about nostalgia, I think this movie, the new movie, Coming to America 2, focuses too much on that aspect of the movie, where you have like a gazillion cameos and sometimes also scene from the older movie, which in this way, like it's kind of odd. But the thing, like, let's talk of the obvious. The thing that to me that seemed like lacking in this movie was the pacing. So really strange pacing. Somehow I always found the jokes to be I don't know, either too explained or too obvious or just missing. And I wonder why that happened. Were they in a hurry? Like, as a creative person, as a painter, as a musician, I always try to understand also the behind the scene of how something can happen, not to justify, but of course there is deadlines, moments, like organizing all those things, especially in those times. I don't know if this movie was shot during the period also of the pandemic or was delayed. So I always think, like, what happened there? Maybe some guy got fired of the writers. So I always try to understand those things, because I'm like, I mean, here we have a lot of top-notch actors, and actresses. Like Eddie Murphy is just, he was amazing. He's a great comedian. Was a great comedian. I don't know. He hasn't been doing stand-up comedy for a while, so I find it strange that a lot of the jokes, they were like a little bit redundant in my opinion, and sometimes missing. And honestly, also leveraging that stereotypical, a little bit more stereotypical kind of behavior of people living in Queens, I think was a little bit of a disservice to the story, because it made it kind of cheap, cheap jabs and jokes. And the whole premise of the story, that now we focus more on Zamunda, the king has to find an heir to the throne because women cannot be in power, that kind of mumbo jumbo, and all of a sudden an illegitimate son comes out in the States. Okay, that can be funny, I have to say, even though the way it was conceived. And I have to say, a lot of people complain about that aspect, but I have to say, it could be. I have to say that's the only part where actually I'm like, hey, you know what? Arsenio's character was kind of wild at the time, so he was bringing women's over. That actually made sense. Maybe Akeem got stoned, and his royal, assets accidentally got in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I can actually like that part. But I wish they just had gone the other way, like Coming to America 2. Like, trying to place the story more into the Queen in Queens or in the US, even though it's changed, but somehow creating some tension there. And we just have a few scenes where they come back at the barbershop. We really have no idea, or I think in Times Square or something, or whatever that venue is in New York. I don't know where the prince character, the son of Kim, is selling tickets. So that part is a little bit like missing. I personally I wanted to see that part again somehow, like done it. I don't say better, but create some tension there in some shape or form. The first movie was great because we got this character which was still untainted, not tainted by the cynicism of a gigantic city like New York, so to speak. And he was tossed into that reality with that kind of like naivete, naive behavior, but also some type of purity. Like this guy with that like different morality and ethics, just bringing in his genuine behavior, genuine love and kindness to a worn out, jaded society already at the time. It was very entertaining and interesting, a lot of funny jokes. So I love that kind of urban, interaction, which now here we miss because most of the time, frankly, you just see like the interior of what we have to believe. It's the Zamunda Palace, which is CGI based on a house of a rapper, if I read correctly, Rick Ross. So it sometimes also feels. Some places feel small, some places feel bigger, but definitely they don't feel like the kind of royal idea, of course, of big. Especially the bigger room where they do the funeral or the other. I don't know. It was a wedding or some ceremony or something like that for the prince. So that was kind of like, okay, fine. And also, we don't get to see nothing of Zamunda, I get the movie, it's a fairy tale, and I think has received a little bit the sort of Walt Disney treatment, where the good intentions and the positive feelings, the positive part of the story, which is, in my opinion, showing that you can change you can change the past, that a woman can rule the country, so it's also in line with how the trends are moving today. Not that women having equal rights has to be a trend, but it is a trend, but should have been like this already long time ago. You know what I mean? It's a trend in the way that now they politicize movie much more in that direction to show that also the arts and entertainment, it's supporting that, and to that extent I think it's great, but it just gets lost. This positive message gets a little bit lost in the strange pacing of the movie. It gets lost in the wrong timing of the jokes and all the cameos, and I have to say it's kind of disappointing because could have been so much better. I don't know how, but Arsenio Hall is great. Eddie Murphy sometimes in this role of the king that has to get a little bit more stoic. He's spending most of the time like, kind of in this posture, like this kind of like stoic posture where you miss the energy, you miss that kind of Eddie Murphy, like that naughty smile and everything. I think that's the thing that I miss the most. And also, I was surprised that the first bride of the first movie, the woman that I apologize, I don't remember the actress name, but the first woman that Hakim was supposed to marry in the first movie was still barking. That's kind of absurd. You know what I mean? And bringing in Wesley Snipes, actually, I like this character. Kind of odd, also not fully. Just we get a little bit of hints here and there of stuff. We don't really understand nothing of Zamunda, what it looks like I said before. So we just see a park. That could be somebody like going for a safari or something. So there is no connection so much there. I love the dresses. I think that there were a lot of attention to paying also homage to a more correct representation of the clothing, so to speak. I think they paid more attention, and I think a lot of the clothing was really nice, in my opinion. And I understand that they tried also to yeah, celebrate more of the African culture, the continent, even though like there are like 50 countries or so, which they're different from each other in Africa. But you know, that part is nice. I think it's nice, but also that gets lost into sometimes strange things. Like at the beginning, I almost felt I was watching a musical, you know, because there are cameos of famous artists into the movie. So going back to Wesley Snipes, so sorry I digressed for a moment. I'm just doing this like on the fly, you know, like I'm not, I'm literally you know, improvising. So I like this character. He was funny, you know, like that was probably the best part of the movie, in my opinion. Somehow, I also like the barbers, even though the question remains, how come they're still alive? I looked back some of the clips of the original, and I can see that, you know, they were depicting older people, but they didn't have to necessarily be that old. You know, they could have been like 55. You know, some of them. If you look at back, you see that they, you know, would have looked like older gentlemen. The idea of a 55-year-old back in the 70s and 80s is different than nowadays. That you have like somebody, I don't know, the Rock, how old he is, but definitely doesn't look like that. So I can get it that they could still be alive, you know, being 90 or so, maybe also working. Apart from the Jewish guy, which I think it was supposed to be already older then. Anyway, that said, also there the tension is a little bit lacking, the energy. So you just wonder, why did they do this movie? You know, I think this movie seems like the kind of movie that was more fun for all those A-lister, with those great iconic actors like Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall, Wesley Snipes, and all the other cast. You know, Jones, I forgot his name, Earl Jones, the guy that voices Darth Vader. You know. Yeah, like maybe it was more fun to make this movie together and celebrate, sort of like, oh, we can do this together, let's have fun with it. That actually they had fun doing the movie, but they forgot that actually the movie had to be at least living in the vicinity of this great beloved comedy movie of the past. You know, there is some stuff, you know, also that scene of there is this part where the son of Akeem goes to get a job, and the guy interviewing him, it's basically the nephew of Randolph from Trading Places, you know, the other movie with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, which is another super classic. And in the first Going to America, you see that Akeem somewhere like takes this huge stash of cash that Arsenio Hall had used to decorate the shitty Queen's apartment, and he takes the cash and he gives it to those two homelesses, which was a cameo to Trading Places, because those were Randolph and the brother, which became homeless. So I like that connection, but also that kind of got lost a little bit. So yeah, this movie could have been much better, in my opinion. Of course, I respect always the difficulties of creative people of trying to put this together, but I don't think here there was a lack of money. I think there was just probably a lack of vision somewhere, you know, and they just leveraged too much on the nostalgic factor without factoring in the fact that, how many facts? Wow. English language, English language, if I spoke it correctly, god damn it. But they forgot that people had to like it too, you know, or at least do something that was as entertaining or in the vicinity. Doing a greater sequel probably would have been close to impossible. But with all my good intent, I watched the movie and I wanted to like it. I never really left throughout the movie, apart from little things, you know, like a little giggle. The jokes were kind of a little bit silly. So I was like, even with the bias of the first movie that I love so much, and I'm sure you love it too, I'm like, I cannot give, with all my heart, I cannot give more than 5.5 to this movie. Really, it's a mediocre movie, which probably was better left alone, honestly, because this does not add to the legacy, you know, of the first. It really doesn't. So I'm sure I missed something here, but I don't want to regret. So I'm also interested to know what you think about the movie. If you have watched it, I might give it a second run, you know, because sometimes you have a lot of expectations, but I don't think it's gonna change dramatically. Like I said, I will give it around 5.5. So that's all. So guys, let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment below. Go check the other videos. Please subscribe. It's free. I'll see you later. Ciao.